Knaresborough is a market town near Harrogate in the English county of Yorkshire. Although small in population, it's big in history. This is the oldest chemist shop in Great Britain and was opened in 1720. It is now mainly a cafe, but it still offers some medicine. One of the delights of the town is the abundance of locally owned shops as opposed to chain stores, although some of the latter exist. Recently, the population was bewildered when the local council suspended from duty the unpaid town crier, Mr. Simon Shaw. Mr. Shaw was accused by a few detractors of all manner of wrongdoing and was vilified by some brave nameless writers on Facebook and Twitter. After an inquiry ordered by Harrogate Council, the accusations were proved to be unfounded. After 9 weeks of being idle, the town crier is back doing the job he obviously loves doing. Someone has a sense of humour. This staircase goes nowhere. A statue of one of the town's heroes is to be seen in the market square. Here, John Metcalfe, known as Blind Jack, is shown sitting on a bench. This remarkable man, blind since the age of 6, is best remembered as the country's first major road builder. His blindness did not prevent him from being an excellent violinist at the age of 15, nor later being a smuggler, a card player, a town guide, and even a stagecoach driver. A more well-known hero is Mother Shipton. 500 years ago, she foretold future events, including the Black Death in England and the Great Fire of London. She also foretold the death of prominent people, including Cardinal Wolsey and a King of England. Some regard her as a witch, while others deny her existence. Whatever the truth, her birthplace cave can be seen at Britain's oldest fee-paying attraction, situated along the banks of the River Nid.
Her appearance, she was constantly taunted by townsfolk who thought she was a witch. For peace and quiet, daily, she would walk in the deserted King's Forest, picking them.
On the other side of the river is a pleasant riverside walk. Rowing boats can be hired here, and it is a popular pastime in the summer months. Along the walk and under the viaduct are several cafes, and on a sunny day the visitors can think they're on a Spanish costa. This walkway leads to Abbey Road and to some interesting historical locations. The first of which is the old manor house. It was built in 1208 around an old oak tree which still exists. It was built as a hunting lodge for King John. Oliver Cromwell was in the building to witness the surrender of the Royalist army which ended the English Civil War. A 400-year mulberry tree planted by King James I still bears fruit every year. Further along the road is the chapel of Our Lady of the Crag. It was hewn out of the rock by John the Mason around 1408. Nobody knows why the chapel was made, but several theories have been put forward without any proof. The interior of the chapel has been made to look like a normal building with an elaborate ceiling. The statue of the Virgin and Child is an original sculpture made in 1408. The figure of a crusader has been added years later. Again, nobody knows why. Further along Abbey Road is the Cave of St. Robert, and before reaching it you pass a new attraction displaying the clever art of tree sculpturing. These figures have been carved by a gentleman from Consett in County Durham. This is Robert Fleur, who was born in York around 1160. After being dispossessed of his land by the local sheriff twice, he lived in this cave as a hermit. When he first moved into the cave, he found it already occupied by a crusader who was hiding from King Richard. King John took pity on Robert and gave him cattle, and the sheriff returned his land to him. However, the sheriff again confiscated Robert's land, and so Robert again took up residence in the cave. He lived there until his death in 1218. He devoted his life to healing the sick and became known as a miracle healer with a power over wild animals. He was never canonized by the church, but somehow he became a saint. A more recent hero is squadron leader James Ginger Lacey. He was born in 1917 at Wetherby, Yorkshire, but was educated here at King James School in the 1930s, when it was still a grammar school. Ginger Lacey joined the RAF in 1937 and quickly rose to the rank of a sergeant pilot. During the Battle of Britain, he shot down 18 enemy planes. By the end of the war, his tally had reached 28. After the war, he formed an air freight company and can be seen here advising during the making of the film Battle of Britain. He died in 1989 at the age of 72. The 900-year castle and grounds is a popular location for both locals and visitors. In its heyday, King John was often in residence and spent a lot of money on its upkeep. King Richard II was held prisoner here for one night before being taken to Pontefract, where he was murdered. After the Civil War, Oliver Cromwell ordered the castle to be demolished, and so the townspeople gave a helping hand. And as a result, many houses in Knaresborough are built with material from the castle. A Norman knight, Hugh de Morville, was at one time the constable of the castle. At the behest of King Henry II, he and 3 other knights murdered this man, Thomas Becket, the Archbishop of Canterbury, in 1170. The murder took place here in Canterbury Cathedral. After the event, the 4 assassins took refuge in this castle for 3 years. Today in the cathedral, one solitary lit candle is accompanying Becket's shrine. The ravens were introduced in 2000 as part of the Millennium attractions. Permission was given by the Queen and a raven chick was brought from the Tower of London. Now several ravens are here under the care of Her Majesty's Keeper of the Ravens.
Isabella, what's the matter? Hey, what? Look at the state of this again. Yeah, I know why you do it. You do it, so I've got to take your Jessie off.
From the terrace overlooking the gorge, a brilliant view of Knaresborough can be seen.
You usually get ravens nesting where there are falcons.
Oh, I see.
Because they know the falcons are hunting.
Yeah, so they'll scavenge.
So they let the falcon go do the hunting and then they push the tail back to them.
As well as tours of the castle keep being available, bowling and putting can also be enjoyed. The old courthouse is now a museum. The Church of St John the Baptist is the home of the Slingsby Chapel, which dates back to the 13th century. Here are the tombs of the influential family who served the Crown and Knaresborough for centuries. This is the final resting place of Francis Slingsby, who died in 1600, and with him his second wife, Mary Percy, related to the Percys of Northumberland. The headless body of Sir Henry de Slingsby rests in this tomb. He was beheaded on the order of Oliver Cromwell for trying to restore Charles II to the throne. Sir Charles Slingsby, the 10th and final baronet, rests here. He was drowned in 1869 when crossing the River Ure while leading the York Hunt. The ferryboat capsized when the horses became restless. As he was unmarried, the baronetcy ended. Like most historic towns in Britain, Knaresborough has many houses with bricked up windows, which was done to avoid the prevailing window tax. Knaresborough has commissioned painters to paint over these windows using the method called trompe-l'oeil. This kind of painting is made to deceive the human eye into thinking the subjects have an image of reality. Trompe-l'oeil is used quite extensively in America and Europe, but Knaresborough is only one of 2 towns displaying it in Britain. The artists have taken the opportunity to display images of the heroes and celebrities of Knaresborough. This painting of animals reminds everyone that Knaresborough once had a zoo. This is a self-portrait of the artist Julie Cope. Guy Fawkes on the right once lived in the area for a time. Mother Shipton is represented here. King John, a frequent visitor to this town, is shown here as the first monarch to distribute the Maundy money in 1210. He gave 13 pence and other gifts to 13 poor men, so he wasn't all that bad, as historians would have us believe. Ginger Lacey looks to the sky in a cheerful mood. The Civil War is remembered by depicting the Royalists in the top window and the Parliamentarians in the bottom. Finally, Blind Jack is seen playing a fiddle at the pub bearing his name. Hopefully you have enjoyed this tour of Knaresborough and, like us, have found it to be a town of great interest.